Power at my company was never measured by titles. It was measured by proximity. By who had access. And, more importantly, by who you were married to. When our CEO finally returned from his extended executive wellness retreat, he didn't come to my office first. His wife did. She appeared in my doorway on a Tuesday morning, smiling with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. Her handbag probably cost more than my first car. Her watch definitely cost more than my last bonus. I think this position would suit me better, she said lightly, as if she were commenting on a jacket she'd like to borrow. It's unfortunate there isn't an empty chair. I didn't respond. I just watched her smile hang in the air, waiting for validation. My name is Amanda Collins, and for 13 years, I built something most people never noticed until it was gone. I wasn't the face on investor decks. I wasn't quoted in press releases. I was the invisible architecture that kept Orexin Biologics legally alive. I ran regulatory compliance. Not the glamorous kind. The kind that quietly ensured $400 million in revenue flowed without a single FDA warning letter, federal investigation, or class action lawsuit. In biotech, that isn't luck. It's survival. I had outlasted 3 CEOs, 2 acquisitions, and 1 whistleblower incident that nearly destroyed us. My office on the 14th floor wasn't a corner suite, but it overlooked the server room. Every audit trail, every certification, every approval lived there. Under my watch. I knew where every digital body was buried because I had personally labeled the graves. Legally. Then Daniel Wright, our CEO, came back from 6 weeks in Turks and Caicos with more than a tan. He came back married. Her name was Chloe Wright. 36 years old. A resume that read like a personality quiz. Lifestyle blogger. Wellness brand ambassador. Creative consultant. Digital transformation strategist. Titles that sounded impressive until you asked what they actually produced. Now, apparently, she was senior advisor on innovation at Orexin. I met her officially at the Monday leadership meeting 3 days after Daniel's return. She walked in wearing a cream-colored suit that looked professionally effortless and sat directly across from me. That seat had been empty for over a decade. An unspoken buffer. Chloe didn't know our rules. Or she did, and chose not to care. Amanda, she said, extending a manicured hand. Daniel's told me so much about your dedication to process. The pause before process was deliberate. I shook her hand and smiled. Process is what keeps us out of federal prison, I said. I'm sure you'll find it fascinating. She laughed. Light. Polished. Oh, I'm more of a big-picture person. I leave the details to people like you. People like me. The phrase settled into the room like a bad odor. Around the table, senior executives suddenly found their coffee cups very interesting. That was my first warning. Over the next 2 weeks, Chloe embedded herself into Orexin like a beautifully dressed parasite. She scheduled innovation workshops during compliance audits. She hired a team of 20-something consultants who carried ring lights and spoke exclusively in buzzwords. She began appearing in meetings she wasn't invited to, always with Daniel's implicit approval trailing behind her like a crown. But the moment I knew exactly what game she was playing came on a Thursday afternoon. She appeared in my office unannounced, closing the door behind her with a practiced ease. I'd love access to the compliance dashboard, she said. Daniel thinks there might be redundancies we could streamline. I leaned back in my chair and studied her. The smoothness around her eyes didn't quite match her expressions. She was beautiful in the way luxury products are beautiful. Carefully maintained. Constantly depreciating. Access requires federal certification, I said calmly. The kind that takes years to earn. I'm a fast learner, she replied, smiling. Besides, I'm not trying to replace anyone. Just optimize. Replace. The word she claimed she wasn't thinking had already slipped into the room. I nodded, smiled, and made a note on my phone. Thursday. 3:47 p.m. Chloe Wright requests system access. When you've spent over a decade building a fortress, you learn to recognize the sound of someone tapping the walls. The first thing Chloe eliminated was our morning verification checklist. 47 checkpoints I personally designed. Too rigid, she announced during an all-hands meeting. We need agile thinking, not bureaucratic boxes. Half the room nodded eagerly. The other half looked at me like passengers on a plane watching the pilot walk out mid-flight. I kept my face neutral and typed another note. Protocol 1A removed without risk assessment. Within days, Chloe's consultants were inside my department. One of them, a 23-year-old named Ty, was assigned to shadow me. So what do you actually do all day? He asked, lounging in my chair while I reviewed FDA submissions. Chloe says most of this could probably be automated. I make sure we don't accidentally kill people or go to federal prison, I said without looking up. It's more time-consuming than it sounds. He laughed. He thought I was joking. 3 days later, Chloe announced a new role. Director of Compliance Innovation. During the presentation, she stood beside Daniel like a proud co-founder. We're not eliminating positions, she assured everyone. We're evolving them. Amanda will transition into a more focused role. She clicked to the next slide. Process Corridor Management. She had renamed my job to make it sound like I managed hallways. That night, I stayed late. Not out of anger. Out of habit. Deep in the system architecture was a break glass protocol I built during the 2016 merger. An emergency authentication layer tied directly to my certifications. At the time, my lawyer called it excessive. I called it insurance. I downloaded everything. Audit trails. Approval chains. Regulator correspondence. 15 years of infrastructure flowing onto an encrypted drive labeled Vault 400. As the progress bar crawled forward, I thought about Chloe's confidence. Her lack of credentials. Her certainty that systems she didn't understand would somehow hold without the person who built them. By month 2, my entire compliance team had been reassigned to Chloe's innovation lab. My dashboard access was revoked on a Wednesday morning. Oh, yeah, Ty said when I confronted him. We migrated systems. Centralized access. I'm handling compliance now. You're handling federal compliance, I repeated slowly. You. He shrugged. Chloe showed me the templates. Templates. I walked straight into Daniel's office, interrupting a video call with investors. Your wife just handed federal compliance to someone without certification, I said. That's not innovation. That's a crime. Daniel sighed. Amanda, I think you're struggling with change. This isn't about change, I said. This is about prison. His face hardened. You may want to consider whether you're still a culture fit here. Culture fit. The corporate kiss of death. I smiled. Before you decide that, you might want to reread Section 9B of my contract. That night, I poured a glass of wine and reviewed it myself. In the event of involuntary termination without cause, all federal certifications held by the employee shall be deemed void within 48 hours. My lawyer once told me no one would ever fire me. I raised my glass to paranoia. The working woman's best friend. Because when the system finally stopped, it wouldn't collapse loudly. It would simply stop holding. The termination email arrived at 8:17 a.m., exactly 12 minutes after I left the building. No cause listed. Just organizational restructuring. I forwarded it to my attorney with a single line. Start the clock. Then I sat in my car in the parking lot I'd used for 13 years, watching the Erexon building rise into the morning light. On the 14th floor, I could see movement in what used to be my office. Chloe, probably. Measuring. Reimagining. Confident that whatever she was about to break would somehow fix itself. She had 48 hours. The beauty of a well-designed system is that it doesn't need emotion. It doesn't get angry. It simply executes the rules it was built on. When the timer I'd set reached 0, every certification tied to my name flipped from active to void. FDA. EPA. DA. OSHA. Every approval I'd signed now required re-verification. Every audit trail bearing my electronic signature flagged automatically for review. It wasn't sabotage. It was compliance. Monday morning arrived quietly. That's how disasters usually start. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed with the first unknown number. I didn't answer. By noon, there were 7 missed calls. By 2, my former company's conference room lines began lighting up my voicemail. At 2:38 p.m., a message came through from Mark, a senior attorney who'd once saved Daniel from himself during a near-miss investigation. Paragon Pharma is requesting updated federal verification for Thursday's shipment. No one knows where to find it. Paragon was our second-largest client. $14 million annually. I made myself a sandwich. Tuesday escalated fast. My LinkedIn profile showed dozens of views from Orexin executives. Chloe's profile still proudly listed her title, but comments on her latest post about reimagining compliance were disabled. At 3:21 p.m., FedEx arrived at my door. Inside was a formal letter from Orexin Legal proposing a consulting arrangement. The offer was laughable. Less than half my previous salary. They were hoping I was scared. I wasn't. I replied politely. Declined. Attached Section 9B of my contract, highlighted in yellow, the way lawyers appreciate. I wished them luck navigating the transition and closed my laptop at 4:59 p.m. Wednesday morning, the panic became visible. An all-hands meeting invite leaked to my inbox. Urgent compliance update. Mandatory attendance. A friend texted me from inside the building. Daniel just asked if we can hire someone else with your certifications. When legal said they're non-transferable, he asked if we could just not tell anyone you left. I laughed hard enough to startle my cat. By Thursday, the call stopped pretending to be polite. HR, legal. Daniel himself. Subject lines shifted from transition assistance to urgent compliance matter to simply please call ASAP. Instead of calling back, I organized my documentation. Screenshots. Emails. System logs. The night I'd accessed the system after hours to observe what Ty was doing had been particularly illuminating. He'd deleted verification chains. Enabled auto-approvals. Worst of all, he'd copied my electronic signature from archived documents and used it on federal submissions. Forgery. Federal forgery. At 11:58 p.m. Thursday night, Orexin sent a new contract. 12 pages. Triple the money. A signing bonus. And buried in subsection 3.2, the real request. Immediate reinstatement of my certifications and retroactive validation of all documents signed during my absence. They wanted me to commit fraud to cover theirs. I forwarded it to my attorney and then to federal counsel. Attempted witness tampering, she replied within minutes. They put it in writing. Friday morning, the first public ripple appeared. Orexin Biologics faces routine FDA inspection amid leadership changes. Routine. I smiled at the understatement. That afternoon, I accepted a job offer from Helixer Biosystems, Orexin's largest competitor. The salary made my eyes water. The start date was 2 weeks out. Enough time for gravity to finish its work. Monday came with black SUVs. At 6:47 a.m., Mark texted me. FDA on site. Full team. At 8:03. They're pulling servers. At 9:10. Someone just asked where Amanda Collins is. By noon, Orexon's stock was halted. By evening, news broke that shipments were suspended pending compliance review. Daniel called. I let it go to voicemail. Tuesday brought escalation. Federal agents found the forged signatures. Ty was questioned. Chloe was interviewed. Her confidence cracked on camera. The woman who'd once dismissed 13 years of expertise as paperwork was now facing charges she didn't know how to pronounce. Wednesday morning, I walked into Helixer's headquarters for onboarding. My new office overlooked the city skyline. Not the server room. I hung my certifications on the wall. Not as trophies. As tools. At 2 p.m., Paragon Pharma formally transferred their contract. They cited regulatory stability as the deciding factor. That evening, Daniel showed up unannounced. He looked older. Smaller. The polish was gone. 5 minutes, he said. Please. He laid out the situation. Criminal charges. Board pressure. Chloe had left town. Lawyers were circling. He asked me to testify that the signatures were a misunderstanding. That I'd supervised the work. No, I said calmly. That would be perjury. What would it take for you to help, he asked. Accountability, I replied. And a public apology. He left without another word. Friday morning, Biopharma Weekly ran a full-page statement from Orexon's board. They acknowledged that dismissing qualified leadership in favor of unvetted personnel based on personal relationships had resulted in catastrophic compliance failures. They apologized to me by name. I framed it. The FBI arrests came the following week. Daniel. Ty. Chloe cooperated. Her Instagram went private. 2 months later, I stood on stage at a national compliance summit, presenting a case study titled When Innovation Meets Regulation. The audience laughed at the right moments. Went quiet at the rest. During Q&A, a young woman asked what advice I'd give someone whose expertise was being dismissed. Document everything, I said. Know your value. And remember, if they don't respect your work, someone else will. 6 months after leaving Orexon, Helixer had grown 40%. Our compliance audits came back clean. My team expanded from 1 to 7. And somewhere, in an empty office on the 14th floor, someone finally understood what had been holding the building up all along. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about what you do. It's about what you stop doing. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever watched competence get replaced by confidence in your own workplace, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more true corporate stories, and remember, expertise isn't replaceable. It's just invisible until it's gone.